welcome to another episode of The Road, the Stage.
You're Patrick Bateman.
I am, and you're Peter Michaels.
Today.
Both, today you are, tomorrow you are a vigilante. Crawling the streets of Red Deer.
What am I crusading against?
Truck nuts.
Okay, well, there's a lot of work to be
crusade.
done. It's a good
There's
crusade.
a lot of work to be done in central Alberta. You're absolutely right.
I've got a slight confession to make.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized this, but this is episode 8.
I think so,
of
yeah.
The Road the Stage now.
Yeah.
This will be the first artist we talk to that I have not seen live.
Oh, wow, okay.
So the last time the Zolas played Red Deer was December of 2018.
Was that with Yukon Blonde?
With Yukon Blonde, right. And I'm like, why wasn't I at that show?
And you were in New York.
In California.
Oh, California,
We had a family trip to California, which...
Off to see the White Buffalo.
Well, that would have been on that trip, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Disneyland was the whole reason for the family to go, but...
And was that the last time you were in California? Because you like to go there every few years, right?
That was the last time we were in California. I do believe that was the last time the Zolas have been in Red Deer.
Well, it's been, I mean, that would make sense. I didn't actually check that, but it's been 5 years since they put out a full-length record as well. And we're going to talk about that because Zachary Gray is the guest today, and the Zolas have been kicking it for a long time, and they kind of changed the way that they put out music in the last couple of years. So
I'm excited to get his take on it. You know, as a bit of a purist, I still love the album and I love everything that the album represents. But I also get that it's not necessarily the smartest or best way to release music these days.
Things are changing. So yeah, their new record, Come Back to Life, is out in July 16th. But, and we'll talk to them about it, I mean, I'd say about 80% of the record you can hear online right now, because they've just been steadily releasing them over the last few months.
They went through a process of pretty much releasing a song a month.
Yes,
for a little while, right?
Yeah. Z Days, I believe it was
Z-Days.
called. So yeah, we're going to talk to Zachary Gray and subscribe to the Bose Bar and Stage YouTube channel. Make sure you check out. If you're just listening to this, I do want to say this: if you're purely listening to this podcast right now, no video, at the very least go and check out episode 6 with the beaches.
Yeah.
Because we had some fun in the green screen room next door.
The green screen has quickly become the star of the show.
Yes.
I've had more people comment on the green screen than almost any of the chats that have taken place around the show. So
yeah, let's get into it. Why don't we? Anything else we want to talk about?
Follow the social medias. We'll hit up at the end all the Zola's socials to follow.
Let's do it.
Let's chat.
Well, I see you've got your big mason jar of water. Your wake-up water.
I do, yeah.
Very nice.
Gotta have it, man. Get a liter in right away.
Absolutely. And you are, I'm assuming, in Vancouver right now?
I'm in Vancouver. The sun is shining. My neighbor is watering her garden right outside this window.
Okay.
And it's good to be here. What's it like over there in Calgary? Or sorry, Red Deer?
Today is actually quite nice. I think we're reaching a high of 15 degrees and sun.
Okay.
If you want to be very specific.
But it is, it's May long weekend for us here as we record this, and you just never know. There will be snow probably at some point this weekend.
I heard that's it can snow any month of the year.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a good friend of mine come out to Alberta a couple summers ago, like first week of September, I think, and he was planning on going on a nice little camping trip up in the Jasper area and had to turn back because there was so much snow.
There was actually a big festival that was held here in like 1992 out in a field somewhere, and it was August long weekend that it was supposed to be held. And it snowed. The entire field was in complete mud. They had to delay the festival by like probably about 3 or 4 days. You figure you're safe in August, but no.
Wow, you guys are the salt of the earth out there. I can't believe you managed to do that. We got our own problems out here, but not quite that.
We're really happy to have you back, man. Glad that we could reschedule in time.
Me too. What kind of beers do you have in those posed growlers? What's going on over there,
Pete?
Well, unfortunately, they're just make-believe today. They're empty at the moment. But the last fill we had that oatmeal raisin brown ale.
Right, oatmeal raisin. It's supposed to taste like a grandma's cookie.
Sure.
And it kind of did.
Okay.
Are you a big craft beer guy?
You know what? I'm like I'm very not picky about anything, man. I'm like I never my taste never really developed past where it was at around age 17.
Okay.
So I can enjoy, like, I do love craft beer. I love nice things, but I also like bullshit too. I like, I mean, well, you know what? It has changed. I used to say that, but as of late, because I've become the one thing that's really cool about getting older is that you stop being able to love sugar the way that you did.
Yes.
So I can't drink growers or anything anymore, like I once could. But other than that, I'll drink any piss that you bring to me.
So if there's a Zola's rider, what's the first alcoholic beverage that gets listed on the rider?
Well, I am most certainly not in charge of that. We've got some real aficionados in our band, but it would be. But you know what? They're pretty meat and potatoes too. Honestly, I usually like a Japanese lager, like an Asahi. But I'll tell you why. It's mostly because the can looks rad on the table.
It does. That logo or that font is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a light beer. It's very quaffable, but it just looks cool.
I've wondered about that actually, and I think maybe we should start asking, especially bands that Zach's in, like the Zolas, because you guys have been touring for well over 10 years now, right? Close to 15?
I've been in a band for over 15, but the Zolas started, yeah, it's 12, yeah.
So
I guess, no, the Zolas started in 2010, I think. And our first album came out in 2012.
Right. And you've seen an evolution of beverages in that time.
I have, right, because there's been this craft beer revolution.
Yes.
I think but to be honest, at the beginning, it's not like we were commanding any clout anyway. Like we were getting drink tickets, like it didn't really matter. Yeah. So our rider was just the gratitude of being allowed to play wherever in the empty venues that we were playing to. So I don't have the experience of having my every whim filled throughout this whole time, and now we can ask for stuff, but it comes at a time when what we really want is like I don't know, like a good smoothie. But we haven't calmed down too much. The beer is still on the rider. And you know what's great? We recently got a new guitar player to add to the band, meaning that I don't have to play guitar nearly as much.
Cool.
Which means I can drink now when I play. So like I used to have to be pretty sober because I just had too much going on. And now I just get to be fucking Bono half the time if I want to. So I can tie one on before. It's really nice. It feels way more human.
Does that mean pretentious? He gets to be pretentious when he wants to be? I don't know.
Is that Bono? Are you stealing? Are you like adopting some of his sunglasses game as well? I've noticed you've got some seriously dope sunglasses recently.
I have a bunch of sunglasses. I have one really dumb pair of green sunglasses that I bought at a corner store a few years ago with the guys, and we were joking that I put them on and turned to them and was like, guys, something about these are well, these are 90% really dumb, but 10% cool. And I bet you if I just wore these consistently, then they would become like iconic in some way. And so we just stuck with it. So I've been wearing these I don't know, like watermelon colored shades for quite a while now. But yeah, no, I have a bunch of sunglasses. I would love to have Bono's sunglasses game, but more than anything, I would like to have his wardrobe circa like 1996, the pop era. I'm not a huge U2 fan. I gotta admit, but the shit that he was wearing for the Pop Mart tour was this designer, this like Belgian, I think, designer named Walter von Beerendorf, and it is the wildest shit. And the designer is like 70 years old now and still making the craziest, most avant-garde, cool stuff in the world. Remember that shirt that Bono would wear that had like it had like muscles on it, kind of. It was like a comic book character kind of torso.
I don't think I've seen that, but we're gonna search it up.
Yeah.
I'm just trying. Was it Bono that had? Did he have like a pair of sunglasses that he'd forgotten somewhere, flown back to him?
Is that
a Bono? Does that sound familiar? I'm sure there's a story. We'll have to Google it. That Bono had a seat on a plane specifically for
the sunglasses.
The sunglasses.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure.
We're gonna have to do a deep fact check on that.
Oh man, if that's true, that poor guy, I'll never live it down in my eyes. That's terrible.
There's some footnotes on this episode.
So was that Bono that you're talking about with this Belgian, fashion designer outfit? Is that a similar era to the kind of vibe that you've been repping in the recent Zola's music videos?
Great segue. Yeah, kind of is actually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what U2 was up to. They were kind of going dancing. Actually, no, you know what? That album has some cool stuff. There's a song called Mofo.
Yes.
That I get the feeling that U2 had almost nothing to do with, and it was just the producer making this incredible track. But it's my favorite track on that record, and it basically sounds like I can't remember. It's like breakbeat electronica essentially, which is dead center in my wheelhouse right now. And yeah, it's that is the era, that is the year, and we've been just been devouring 90s music for the last little while, and that's sort of what came out with this new record. And not just any 90s music, mostly like 90s music from the UK. Because I think we were more into sort of grungier stuff with the last record, which I guess would be more 90s USA. But with this record, it was very much like trip hop, Britpop, and electronica that we were into. There was just so much cool music happening in that era in the UK and it just sort of, we watched a bunch of documentaries and got like fully swallowed up.
Yeah.
So, and how does the influence of that work? Do you start off by kind of writing a little bit and going, this kind of sounds like that 90s kind of Britpop stuff. We should go and explore that a little bit more? Or is it you're just listening to that and that influences where you're going?
Yeah, it's the latter. I remember it started off because there was this Oasis documentary that came out on some streaming service called Supersonic, and I'd kind of forgotten that I liked Oasis when I was a kid. I would never have listed them as one of my favorite bands, and I still wouldn't, because I only really like a very small percentage of their songs. But the songs that I like, I really, really, really like. And for some reason, watching the way that those guys behaved and lived their lives as
enemies,
mystery, and enemies and sort of public enemies, and they. It kind of felt like the antidote to all the music that was out right now that I just could not get into. It felt refreshing to me, at least. And so, yeah, we started listening to that. We started quoting that stupid movie, and then I got back into records that I sort of only. Like that hit me when I was a kid, but only like at a glancing blow. So like The Verve was a band that I was like, I knew I might like, but never really got into, and got really back into them. And then just explored all the music that from that era that maybe didn't get super famous either. And then when you're in the jam space and you're playing a guitar riff or something, if that's what you're into, then that's what will sound good to you. So it just sort of, it's like water always running downhill. It will lead you to your tastes. That's why I think it's important for any musician to like remember that it's like a you are what you eat kind of situation. Like if you listen to things, it will influence your music. And so you can. It's impossible to like manufacture inspiration, but you can definitely control where your tastes are going. And then when inspiration hits, it'll be in the direction you want.
Well,
that's how it is for me.
I'm personally loving the sound, and I will say though that like I've read a ton of articles and interviews, and I keep seeing that name, that word, that genre, Britpop, appear, which I find to be such a vague term, because you've also talked about the Manchester baggy scene, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's so much. Britpop just seems like a very limited, restrictive word to a scene, an industry that we just didn't really have too much exposure to.
Totally.
So I do appreciate it. And I will say, we were watching your Traveling Wilburys cover from a couple years back. Can we get like another type of group project, but like maybe you guys cover a Primal Scream song or something like that?
Oh, I love the sound of that. Man, yeah, that would be so good. Like, something from Screamadelica, like the really baggy stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I would love that. Yeah, that baggy era. Honestly, the baggy era is in a lot of ways more influential to us than like, but it's exactly what you're talking about. You kind of took words out of my mouth. I recently, for an interview, I had to try to make a little playlist of Britpop music that I like, because I had said that we were making Britpop, and then I was like going through all this music. I was like, man, all this kind of sucks. And genuinely, like, Britpop as a genre, first of all, it doesn't make sense, because the bands that are considered Britpop, none of them sound even remotely the same. Blur, Oasis, The Verve, Elastica, and then a million one-hit wonders, they don't sound the same. Actually, they start to sound the same as the quality gets down, because these are bands that were formed just to sort of take advantage of this craze. But like, so yeah, when you're listening to like Menswear, which is like I think a truly bad Britpop band, but they were very famous, and they were super cute, and they were good musicians, but I was not into it. So man, where was I? Yeah, but the baggy era is a little more legit to me, because it feels like it has a sort of traceable pedigree from what was happening in Manchester, and so does Oasis. But like, it's cool to think about Joy Division and the Smiths and Happy Mondays were just all that Hacienda stuff that came out of a city that really hadn't been famous for music for a little while, and it was just a sort of dirty industrial town. And then sort of party drugs showed up, and suddenly kids learned how to have a good time, and all this great music was born. I mean, say what you want about drugs, but they definitely inspired some awesome, incredible music. And it's funny, because I'm more into, if you like, the rule of that era for me is like, I'm really into the music that feels like it was written for uppers and downers, and less into the music that feels like it was meant for like 100 loggers.
Right.
But like Oasis, for example, is just like really a very beer focused band to me. Not that they didn't do a shit ton of drugs, but like it's like beer music, whereas Massive Attack is very like downer.
Sink into the couch a little bit.
Exactly. And I don't even know. I feel like Primal Scream is uppers, even though there's not high BPMs, but it's just really like bouncy.
Yeah, and I think Primal Scream was a pretty big like dance hall kind of group at the time. It's funny, I was just watching this pretty sweet YouTube documentary on the origins of dubstep, which to us here in North America, unless you have an understanding, you think the worst of it. But before it was kind of popularized in Western culture, it was like a really intense way for people to kind of relax at the end of a hard, stressful week.
Just be able to let it all out.
Yeah, and it's fantastic too. Like, I've been listening to all this stuff from the early 2000s, late 90s in the UK that just is not representative of what we understand dubstep to be at all.
I know I didn't, obviously I totally missed that and only got the commercial dubstep, but like I would love to listen to that stuff that you're talking about.
I'll send it to you.
I want some tips, because I would really, yeah, I remember reading as a kid, reading this interview with Tom York.
Mm-hmm.
It must have been like 2006 or something, 2007. And he someone asked him, like, what music are you into, and what do you think the future holds for music? And he's like, lately all I've been listening to is a genre called dubstep.
Yeah.
And I think that's the genre that's going to go crazy. And I had never heard of dubstep. None of my friends had ever heard of dubstep. So I don't know what year it was, because maybe 2007 is too early. I don't remember when it got.
That makes sense. That sounds right.
Okay. And so I looked it up. Like, he made a playlist, and I tried to look up the songs that he was talking about. And I thought it was cool, but then much later, when dubstep became a household word, I was very impressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a bit of a wizard at times, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm loving the new direction, if you want to call it that, of the Zolas. I love the influence that permeated into your recordings and your jams over the last few years, and it does seem like it's been some time since you've put out, a full length. Yeah, man. Right? That's 2016. Yeah. When did you say that Bose show was?
The last time you guys were in Red Deer at Bose was 2018 with Yukon Blonde.
Yeah, with Yukon Blonde, yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, so and it's funny, as I was going back and kind of refreshing on the discography as well, I went and looked, and I'm like, last album was 2016. How is that possible? But I mean,
know.
That's
I know. The reason it happened was because the album ended up being so fucking successful over such a long period of time that we ended up being quite busy with it, and also lazy. Like, when things are going well with music that's out, it's sometimes, and this is a mistake I won't make again, sometimes it's easy to like just be into the I don't know, just like your day-to-day like that, instead of trying to think of what's next and sometimes you just don't know what you have to offer the world until it shows up. Like, for me, I never want to make an album unless I feel like I have something to say that the world needs to hear. Mm-hmm. And a sound to make that I want to hear in this world. Like, I'm always thinking, like, what's the music that if it was passing me in someone's car, that I would that would make me think about it all day and wonder what it was, and like, what does that sound like? And it's kind of hard to pin that down sometimes, especially if you're in a lull of not. It's so nice to get obsessed with a certain band or a certain era of music or something, because then that can, like, I got super into T-Rex shortly after, and so now I'm like, okay, I want to make an album that kind of feels that. It's not like I want to make an album that sounds exactly like these things, but I want to make an album that makes me feel the way that Mambo Sun makes me feel, or like Jeepster makes me feel. And it was the same for this record. Like, we as a band, we ended up watching Trainspotting, and we watched Romeo and Juliet, all of these like mid-90s movies, and there's something about the soundtracks that we wanted to emulate. And it's impossible to emulate those soundtracks because the songs are all so different, but like, I wanted to make a record that made me feel like those soundtracks made me feel. And that was the goal. And you're doomed to fail. Like, you should, you can come up with your idea of what you want to do, and you will try, and you will not quite hit that exact thing, but sometimes you'll hit something adjacent that's just as good.
Well, and we should mention that something is coming out in July 16th. That's Come Back to Life, which I think another thing we wanted to talk about as a couple of radio dudes. You took a very conscious, decidedly different approach to releasing not just this album, but almost, because you can hear like 75% of this album already online, because you've been steadily releasing them as singles. And I was watching your interview with Master T. I didn't know anything about this guy. No, I didn't. I wasn't aware of that much music scene too much in I think it was the 90s. But ever since discovering some Master T interviews, I can't get enough of the guy. But you said,
oh my God,
You said that if you release one album with 12 tracks, you get to put out one press release, and if you release 12 singles, then you get to put out 12 press releases, and everyone thinks that you're really prolific. How's that going?
Well, it's been a pandemic, and everybody thinks that we're active, so
Yeah.
that's cool. No, it works. It's exactly the way that the world works right now. But the thing to remember is it means that when your album's out, you have to start releasing music again. Like you
Right.
can't wait 3 years between the album release. Like your album's been out for a year basically. So it's I think a lot of artists are adopting more of a, well, this is sort of a cynical way of saying it, but like a production line approach to it, where why should we be like, what we're listening to and what we're interested in changes so much from month to month, and evolves so much from month to month, and also like the world, what the world needs to hear changes from month to month. So how the hell are you going to write 10 songs and then sit on them for 2 years while it gets all ready? Like, who knows? Like, are you going to know that that's what you want to put out in 10 years, like, or in the next year? Absolutely not. Like, the thing that you write in January might be obsolete in October. So it makes a lot more sense to make music, to record it and release it in real time, and then to treat albums like the way that they used to be in the very beginning, which is essentially just compilations of singles. Which isn't to say like the album as I grew up loving it is dead, because the coolest thing about right now is that radio is only a small part of how people discover music. And the kind of things that people listen to on the radio, and the kind of things that, or at least the kind of things that people program on the radio, and the kind of things that people gravitate to on streaming, for example, they're completely different types of songs. Like two of our biggest streaming songs are like 4.5 or 5 minute slow mopey, like very emo songs.
Yeah.
And that's what fans of ours really like. But that would never, like, I don't know, sell Michelin tires or whatever is being advertised on the radio. So that's not what will be on the radio. So I really do believe that you'll still get the depth of those album tracks, even when people are compiling records. Like a single to us isn't going to be a banger every time. A single for us, like a single could be a very soft and completely radio incompatible song.
Right.
And you'll see with this record when it's all out, like it makes sense. It feels exactly how we would, even if we had just been sitting on all these songs and released them in one go, that's exactly how we'd want it to sound. But what's also cool is that, like, in July we will have an album out, and then maybe in August we'll have a new single that's not on that album.
Right.
And we'll start over again. And that's so exciting to me, because I can think about like what's next. I can make that T-Rex song if I want to.
The next evolution of the Zolas.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about that new single, which you just dropped the music video for. Was that? Well, that was just on like Tuesday night, I think. I was watching it live.
Oh, you were? Okay, cool. Yeah,
it was. So that's for Young DiCaprio, which we've already talked about. Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, which was 1996. A movie which I feel like it doesn't get talked about anymore, but it was huge back then, right?
Yeah, and I think still underground wise.
Was it? Okay.
Still got some pretty good buzz going around it.
It holds up outrageously well. I don't think it's ever not been cool.
Okay.
But especially right now, because the fashion and production design is just like it just could not be more in right now.
Right.
The things that the people are wearing and just the aesthetic in general is just so almost like painfully trendy to right now. So so it's a really interesting watch right now, and it holds up really well.
I'm glad to hear that, because I have very, very vivid, memories of certain scenes, but I definitely haven't seen it since at least the early 2000s, and I was very young at the time too. So if it holds up, I'm going to check it out.
It holds up. I think you might appreciate it better today than you did at when
13 years old.
When you were watching it in grade 10, English class.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny you think of, how much forward progress we continue to make as a species. But like you say, you go back and watch some of these things that have just as much clout today, if not more, than they did when released 20 years ago. And you think, are we just spinning our wheels here? Like, we're not.
Well, we are talking about Romeo and Juliet, perhaps
sure.
the most retold story of all time.
True. Think about what an accomplishment that was to turn a 400, 500-year-old play into
a gripping like crime action thriller sorts.
Exactly. That like 14-year-old kids would watch and want to emulate and want to rewatch over and over again and get obsessed with. Like, I think that's one of the most impressive flexes of any director has ever done in my lifetime. It's really impressive.
And you guys it influenced your music video. Have you checked out the Young DiCaprio video yet? So it's very cool. To those who, may have spent some time in Vancouver, I think there's some familiar landscapes.
Not really.
No?
Oh, yes, there is. Yeah, the bridge. There's the Lionsgate Bridge is in it. Yeah. That's it, though. I think the rest is just sort of nondescript streets and interiors. But we wanted to just the goal was to just sort of make it feel like the Romeo and Juliet video mixed with this incredible Hong Kong director from the 90s called Wong Kar-wai.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually not, he started in the 90s, but he's still doing it today. But his 90s movies are like the I don't know, they're just some of my favorite movies aesthetically that anyone's ever put out. They're the coolest looking movies, and they're really sexy and full of action and punk. They're really punk, and I really love those movies. So we were just trying to emulate, like, the North Star for that video was Wong Kar-wai and Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, and we're like, it would be so funny to just straight up recreate the fish tank scene.
Right.
And so we recreated the fish tank scene, and then took it a little bit further. And yeah, it was a really, really fun video to make, and it's probably the most successful video we've had from the standpoint of having an idea and executing it exactly how we wanted to. And so I'm really happy with it.
And is it the first time that you've had the cops called to the set of a music video of yours?
I believe so, yes. Cops do get early on when you're doing everything illegally. Cops do come, but the cops, they might roll up and then leave you alone. But in this case, the cops were called, and there was a bit of an incident. Yes. And
we'll take a clip from the video, because it's a very specific reason why the cops were called. Like, someone thought that there was some sort of bizarre kidnapping going on with the victim on the front end of a car, or the back end.
Back end. Yeah. So one of the sort of formative ideas of the video was I'd always looked at the back of a folded up tow truck as looking, it's just a crucifix, just driving around the city. But it's weird that you don't really see it that way. And then I remember thinking that it was a long, long time ago. I remember thinking it would be super sweet to like chain yourself to one and then be videoed just being rolled around the city. And years, like literally over a decade went by, and then we finally had the reason and the resources to do it. So yeah, we chained me to the back of a tow truck and rolled around the streets.
And what time of day were you guys recording?
This was evening, and the idea that I had, it was going to be broad daylight, and we were going to get like real reactions from people, which that would have been really cool. But that's really hard to do logistically and quite illegal.
Mm-hmm. No specific permit for that kind of filming.
Yeah. Plus, think about all the people you'd have to track down if you want their faces.
Right.
It would suck. So we did it at night, and yeah, I think it was around midnight or somewhere between midnight and 2 a.m. when 7 cop cars rolled up. And
slow night for
and
the police over there.
yeah, we were in a suburb of Vancouver, and they told us that there had been the 911 had been called because someone suspected that there was a kidnapping in progress. And I wasn't actually talking to the cops, but one of our production crew, he talked to them and explained it. But afterwards was like, what kind of a kidnapper would what kind of like high key kidnapper would tie someone to the back of a tow truck as a way of kidnapping them? That makes no sense. Like,
and film it.
Oh man.
And film it, yeah. Although I can imagine like that's some like mafia shit where like we're gonna tie you to the back of, it's like there's a mafia family that runs all the tow truck companies.
Yes.
And you get rolled around the back, and then they cement your feet and then throw you into the river.
The last anyone saw of him, he was tied to the back of the that infamous family's tow truck.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a tale. That's a music video story if I ever heard one.
It was good. We had a great time, and it was no, I don't know. It was such hard work. Every time you finish a music video, you say like, oh man, I would love to not be in our music videos anymore.
Right.
Because it's, even when it seems like it's going to be easy, the days are always 16 hours, and it's just so much more tedious than you thought it would be. But at the end of this one, I understood how people get the bug and just want to be in film and want to do this, because you get so close with the people you're working with. It really is like going to boot camp with a few people and coming out of it feeling like a little family. So yeah, it was great. And then the video turned out awesome. So, and the people love the song. It's so cool. Like most of the time when I really love a song, there's a part of me that's a bit nervous, because I know for a fact that me loving a song means nothing about like how well it'll go off or how people will react to it. So you can't get too precious, because you have no control over what will resonate. But the song, like I loved it, and people seem to agree.
Yeah, I'm digging it too, big time.
As you're releasing these songs, how much in the back of your mind is touring these songs? Because eventually we're going to get you guys back out on the road. So I mean, I imagine you got to be chomping at the bit to get these.
We're going to get one of those famous. You know, the whole reason we want to get back on tour is just to take advantage of Bo's legendary rider. Anybody who's played at Bo's in Red Deer knows that like it's worth a stop, if only for the hospitality.
Cool. So you received the payment.
It was all smoothies.
Dude, yeah, you paid me in what the hell was it? There was like a sushi platter or something. No, it couldn't have been sushi platter. It was you guys there was like, I mean, I was eating a lot of candy on that tour, and there was like shameful amounts of candy on that rider. It's not even a rider. We didn't request that stuff. They're just half of the backstage was just full of amazing shit to eat, and that doesn't normally happen. So hats off. Any band that can get booked at Bo's, do so. I don't know if they're nice to everybody, but
they are
certainly nice to us.
They are.
They are? Okay, good. So yeah, but to answer your question, man, some of these songs are so fun to play live, and we tested a few of them out before everything shut down, and it felt so good to play them. And usually people have to have heard a song a bunch of times to be visibly, for a performer to be able to tell whether a crowd is into a song. It usually has to be a familiar song, and you're hearing people like sing back to you or whatever. But every now and then you can play a song for the first time, and you can sense the crowd reacting, and that really happened with a few of these songs. So I'm just so excited to see what will happen when people have had that album in their lives for a whole summer. It looks like it won't be until the late fall though.
Mm-hmm.
We might try to sneak in, if the numbers get good and it feels ethical to do so, we might try to sneak in some low-key shows BC and I mean locally obviously, but I mean locally I feel like every band is saying this, like when things are open again, we're gonna play every fucking night, just at any random place, and we're gonna play to 10 people if we're not gonna tell anyone, we're just gonna show up and play every night just to remember how good it is to play live again. But yeah, well, there was some talk about doing like before this sort of third wave thing, there was some talk about doing an outdoor sort of stripped down tour, which would be fun, but it's not the same thing. So yeah, for the real like production, it'll be late fall at the earliest. But I think there's a good chance, especially if you live in the west of Canada, then that you'll be able to see us in some sneaky way.
Starting to get hope, at least, right?
Starting to see things happen a little bit.
Seeing festival announcements in the States and successful concerts in Australia, and we'll get there sooner than later.
Yeah, I'm just excited for enough people to have the vaccine for it to not be a big deal. It's getting the vaccine myself was it changed things, not too much in behavior, but suddenly life just felt a lot more normal because I didn't have to second guess anything that I did really.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I couldn't like have house parties or anything, but I could I don't know, you can go shopping and not really worry that you're going to get it, and you can hang out with friends outside and not worry that anything's going to happen. So it's I don't know, anyone who listened to this and is wondering whether they should get the vaccine, I endorse it. I had a really good time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I forget. Actually, our producer Ryan, I think, might have shared it the other day. There was up on a marquee. It said something about the vaccine is the gateway to concerts.
Gateway drug to concert.
Gateway drug to concert.
That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a bit of a hard sell in Alberta because you guys are very individualistic folk as a people, but
that's a very nice way
that was
to put that.
What a polite.
Just remember that's not the entire province.
Yes.
No, I know. But I think we'll all get there. I'm excited.
So through this, have you guys been able to get together? Like, have you guys, played these songs or rehearsed and done some practice?
Not really. The core of the band, the three of us, have just started getting back together because for a while we were in very different bubbles and we're taking different, just exposed to different stuff, and it just didn't make sense for us to do that. But now that things are chill and we all had shots, or at least our first shots, we've been getting together again a couple times a week, and it started with we haven't been practicing the songs though. We've been thinking about new music already. Mm-hmm. So I think when we have a show on the horizon, we'll have the whole band together and we'll start rehearsing again, and that'll be incredible. But in the meantime, it's just about new music and spending time with each other. Because man, I don't know if you guys felt this way, but not seeing your friends in person and not having a lot of just sort of unscheduled bullshitting time can really be it can really test out your friendship, because I don't know, it's like when you're all your own satellite, you start to we didn't fight, but I feel like we just it's just so easy to miscommunicate over text and stuff. And if you don't have the kind of lubrication of the fact that we saw each other yesterday and everything was great, then you might take someone's text as being I don't know, curt or whatever, and it's all completely fabricated in our minds. So it's been great because we were I didn't like it. We weren't being nice to each other for about a month there. It's not like we were having a full-on fight, but we just weren't enjoying each other's text threads, that's for sure. And then now we've been hanging out, and that era makes no sense at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. There will probably be some studies done on that kind of social behavior now that you bring it up.
Well, and again, you've got more time to overthink things, right? Like you say, you misread something in a text, and rather than, moving on and being in a different social setting or whatever, you've got a lot of alone time to sit and analyze those conversations that probably didn't need to be analyzed.
And you've got this lack of physical presence to validate the good feelings of your relationships or your friendships. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just like trying to be sarcastic over text. It's like perilous activity that
you could look at every text as sarcastic if you really wanted to.
But again, you've got the extra time to overanalyze and overthink of, well, what did he mean by that?
Yeah, I love you, man. What's this guy's problem?
So what's been going on over there? What have you guys been working on over the year? What's been your project? Everyone's had time to scheme. What's your scheme?
You're looking at it.
You're looking at it, man. You're looking at it. The origin story of this is the Communal Creative Studios, which is
extension of Bose.
Yeah, collaborative effort with Bose, and our producers are Ryan. He's the sound guy at Bose, and then our video producer is Riley. And up until recently, we were working in new rock radio, and
right. What station is that?
That was at the Drive.
106.7 The Drive.
Okay, cool.
And that is now transition to another format.
Oh, it turned into The Rain, or what's that? Have you ever seen the movie Airheads?
Oh yeah,
no, I haven't. Is that okay? I might have to watch that.
Very, very, very much.
You guys need to watch Airheads. Yeah, I think they're turning the rock station into the station was called The Rain, like smooth jazz.
That's the premise of that. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. But we both appreciate the live music scene here and new music. So this has been our project for the last few months, and you'll be episode 8, I think.
So were you guys like on air partners?
Not co-hosts.
Not co-hosts. Okay.
Yeah, but no.
You guys, both radio guys.
Both shared the passion for the new stuff and loved going to the shows at Bose, and just wanted to find a way to keep that rolling.
Yeah, and
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all good.
I'm excited for you guys because it's especially with radio is one of those industries where like when you have a talent for being a radio person, you end up having almost no control over your own career.
Yeah.
Because the industry is so tumultuous and it's almost like being a hockey coach. Like hockey coach will get fired for reasons that have nothing to do with them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's the same as being a radio person. So the idea of having your own thing where you can't be fired and you get to react to things other than like, oh man, I can't even imagine. I don't fully know what considerations radio general managers have to deal with, but it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. It sounds like a lot of going against the person that you used to be.
Well, I mean, we did talk about dubstep and primal scream at the beginning of this conversation, which is not something we necessarily would have done in a radio interview.
The nice thing for the most part, we've talked to a lot of bands that we would have played on the station before, but like if we want to talk to, if we want to do a country podcast or a pop podcast or anything, we're wide open to that.
I want to talk to Cadence Weapon one of these days, and I'd love to know how that feature, what was the origin story of him hopping on another dimension for this new record?
He's been, we've been sort of friend adjacent for a little while. He knew my younger brother in Montreal when they were, I think, both going to Concordia. And so I knew him through him, and I ran into him a few times in Toronto, but we'd never hung out. And I had pitched a few, like I produce music, and I had pitched some beats to him in the past.
Oh, cool.
And so we had like an email relationship, and I sent him a few songs that I wanted features for, and he just seemed really into it. And the guy, the way that he goes about his sort of trajectory just feels so perfect for what we do, because he's almost like a Canadian grime DJ in some, or an MC in some ways. Like he's always rapping about he jokes about like he's the only rapper who raps like 75% about gentrification.
Yeah.
I think that's something like that. And it's true, and that's the sort of the magic of certain artists to me, is the ones that manage to talk about things that really matter to them and to people around them right now, and the kind of conversations and difficult conversations that we all end up having, whether it's about gentrification or like getting priced out of your city, or about climate change, or about just all these sort of scary things that are happening, and people who manage to turn that into music that at the same time like feels good to listen to, and gives people something to gives people that the feeling of not being alone and thinking those things, and also sometimes explaining the situation.
Yeah.
Caden's Weapon, in his lyrics, like you can actually learn a thing or two about like why cities are going the way they are right now by listening to his at least in the broad stroke. So I really love that about him, and because he takes it all really seriously, but also that's the thing about grime that I love, is they're writing about like the problems in their society, but they're never taking themselves too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
They take the world seriously, but not themselves, and that's Caden's Weapon. So I've always loved what he does, and with that song, I always wanted to collaborate with him. And I think there'll be a lot more. I've got a few other tracks that I have people on the hook to collaborate with, and I'm excited about that. But yeah, he's incredible. And have you heard his new album yet?
Yeah, I've been listening to it quite a lot in the last couple weeks, actually, and I was pretty unfamiliar with him before that, and then I realized he was on your record too.
What did you think of his record? I haven't listened to the whole thing.
I really like it. It does like there's a lot of, seemingly to me, some of that UK grime influence, and yeah, I love it, man. I'm not like I don't automatically pick up lyrics in music. It's not necessarily what I focus on, which I know that is a really important part of the Zolas tunes, especially the songs on this new record. But yeah, just going through some of Caden's Weapon's lyrics, like, yeah, he's got a serious talent. I mean, he was the poet laureate of Edmonton for like 2 years.
Oh yeah, right.
So
that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Legitimate wordsmith for sure.
I thought that was a lifetime position.
Maybe it is. Maybe I got to go back and do the research.
I imagine there's many people knocking down the door to grab that title.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, who else would be? Maybe someone from like 10 Second Epic or something like that.
Oh, 10 Second. Yeah. Is that okay, never mind. That's another.
I don't even fully know if that's an Edmonton that I think about.
That's Edmonton. That's Edmonton producer Ryan. Yeah.
That was my dig. I was just digging deep for an Edmonton man I could think of off the cuff.
I think it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it was.
What else was good? Mac DeMarco, man. He could have been one.
Oh, Mac DeMarco.
You're right. Sure. You're right.
Edmonton.
Which were you guys running in similar circles when he was based in Vancouver?
Definitely, yeah. Also, he and Caden's Weapon were friends because they were all in Montreal together at the same time.
Right.
In school.
Right.
So I knew Mac more because when I visited my brother, he was around there.
Okay.
But he did live in Vancouver, and we have a lot of mutual friends. I almost never saw him here, though.
I remember being in Vancouver probably like 9 years ago now. I was at a rooftop cassette release in Vancouver years and years ago, and it wasn't until like 3 years ago that I realized that it was a Walter TV release.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was Vancouver had such a cool DIY scene, which from a distance appears to have kind of been fading over the last few years, at least for venues, right?
Oh, for venues, it's bleak as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everywhere is a bit bleak as hell right now because of the times, but Vancouver's got this strange, I'm not sure I hate it. So this is the situation in Vancouver. When I first started playing music, like if you wanted to get a gig, you would have to like convince some bar owner that you could bring at least 50 people somehow. And then it didn't really matter what your music was like, and they would just let you play. It's just straight up a vehicle for liquor sales. Like your act could be like pissing into a bottle, and he would be like, 50 people on a Thursday? Yeah, okay, cool. But those were all legitimate venues. Nowadays, if you're a young band, if my band was starting up now, I don't think that we could have been around for 3 years and never have played a legitimate venue. There's almost no legitimate venues that are geared towards new music or interesting music, and a part of me kind of loves that, because I feel like the fact that it's all predicated on liquor sales just led to just music that people want to drink to, and that's not always good music.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's all illegal, and there's no overhead. So you find a space that costs almost nothing, like an old garage that's been repossessed or something like that, and the door is split between the bands and the people running it, and that's it. There's no overhead at all. There's very few employees, and it serves the kind of music. There's a lot of, in Vancouver right now, there's a lot of sort of punk and a lot of I would just call it like alternative hip hop, I guess. And that stuff there's some great music happening right now. There's one band in Vancouver I've been just singing the praises of. They're called Shway, Schwey, and they have this single, not the latest single, but the single that they put up before that was one of my favorite songs of last year. It's called like Some Things I Know I've Got to Change, I think is what it's called, and that song blew my mind. It's incredible. So anybody listening to this, go check out that song by Shway. And yeah, but Vancouver's on the up, and it's all illegal because we have really draconian, terrible sort of laws about noise and about liquor and about assembly.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of place that's sort of ruled with an iron fist by the sort of real estate industry. So like if you have a cool venue that's legitimate and it's been going on for 10 years, someone can build a condo next to you and then start complaining about noise. That's Vancouver. I don't think every city is like that. And then honestly, they can shut you down. Like enough complaints about noise.
Show's over.
Yeah, game's over. So yeah, Vancouver can be, it's been called no fun city for a long time, and it every now and then tries to buck that stereotype, but so far it has not.
Well, you're making me appreciate Bose more, because I will say that, like, after spending quite a bit of time going to shows in Vancouver, and some of my one of my favorite shows I've ever been to was in the back of some record shop, watching a couple of Vancouver punk bands with, like, I don't know, 25 people, just having the greatest time of my life. And I do kind of feel that at some certain shows at Bose too, which is super nice.
There's Bose is incredible because you're like one of the only games in town.
Yeah.
And you guys sort of, I don't know, just have the best presence. You guys get the craziest swings from like international acts to totally up and coming, or maybe never will up and come acts.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a challenge, right? You're stuck right square in the middle of Edmonton and Calgary. So bands can go to Edmonton and go to Calgary. Why would they want to come to Red Deer? So you kind of have to go over and above to say, well, here's the reason why. Yeah,
and you do. I mean, I don't know where I'm looking forward to playing in Edmonton and Calgary. But I always know that I'm excited to play at Bose. Look at me, I'm just plugging this place all
man, you got paid a lot. You got paid more than our previous guests, I think. Well, listen, like I've really been appreciating the content, the information that you promote in your songs. But I want to know, like, what issue or topic have you been obsessing with lately?
Whew. You know, I haven't been writing very much lately. So I think the best way to answer that is just to talk about like what this record is about. And it's tough to there's no one thing. Basically, like every record of mine, I always end up describing it as a cross section of conversations that we've all been having with people we know over the last year or two. And the kind of conversations that we've been having, it's been very political. It's been a very political time. And so I try to get as absorbed in I think the challenge of writing music is to tell an audience something that they've heard a million times in a way that they've never heard it. And that's what like all good like love songs will be, because you've heard everything in a love song a million times, but the good ones will say it in a way that makes you think about it a little bit differently, or at least just describes it in a way that feels novel. But when you're writing about something, about a real issue that you care about, you can kind of be the first person that you know to write about it. Like Hayden's Weapon, he's got the market corner on gentrification, but that's something that we talk about here all the fucking time. It's like probably we talk about it more than almost anything, which is really sad. But yeah, like so we had a song called Bombs Away, which is just about like all the things about your city that you love slowly disappearing, and the people that you once connected with slowly just no longer being there one by one, and it's such a slow process that you don't realize that you're living in a completely different city, or you're living in a ghost town in a way. Not in that no one's there, but there are so many ghosts to you. Like you walk down the street and you're like, oh, there used to be this venue here that I loved, and like, oh, my friend used to live here, and that was our fire escape, and we used to smoke off that fire escape, but that person had to move out of Vancouver because they couldn't afford it. Anyway, that's like one song, and shit. I mean, I feel like if I list them all, it'll be really.
It is a long list, though, dude. Like it's diverse conversations. So I would encourage any of our listeners, when that album drops on July 16th, or even go check them out now, like make an effort to sit down and read through exactly what Zach and the Zolas are singing, because again, like every song seems to be a very important but very different discussion.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, the one that I think the most proud of, there's two. One of those songs is out, and one of the songs is not out. Okay. The song that's out is called Wreck Beach, Totem Park. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, that's the one that I'm the most proud of, because it's one of the most personal and maybe like nuanced statements, because I don't think I've heard a song exploring what it feels like to come to the realization that that your presence in your homeland is kind of on the wrong side of history. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why I live here. So I grew up in Vancouver, right near a reserve called Musqueam, or by a nation called Musqueam, but they have a reserve there. And I always grew up just knowing that they were there, but I never saw them. And it's funny when you grow up not being told anything, and when you grow up being where everything just seems like it's how it's supposed to be, sometimes you don't know to ask the questions. And it took me until like well into my 20s to ask the questions, like, so how is it that this all land used to be all Musqueam, and now they're just in this one little corner, and how did that happen? And then reading about that, it just became it's a conversation that I think a lot of white people in Canada and all over have been thinking about like, it's just, I guess it's just, the word is reconciliation, and the word is man, I feel like I'm not describing this that well. But it's a more personal thing than that, though. It's basically about like losing. When I was a kid, I was super patriotic, and I also just loved where I was from. The song is about when you realize that all of your most beautiful moments of nostalgia, all the stuff that you hold dear about where you grew up, it all is happening in the context of a sort of on purpose genocide.
Yeah, an uncomfortable truth for many people.
Exactly, and realizing that is really sobering and makes you appreciate where you live all the more, and makes you appreciate the people that lived here before and continue to live here way more. And so, yeah, to me, it's funny because I really feel like I put it best in the song, and so when I try to paraphrase it, it always sounds kind of lame. But yeah, I love that song, and
that's good advice for interviewers. Like, you know, if it's said well in the song, then you just leave it at that,
yeah, that's right?
No, I don't agree. Like, I honestly, it's good advice for me to like get my sort of shtick back in. Like, I just haven't had enough interviews when I've had to think about it and talk about it, where I'm sure in 5 interviews I will have a much more sort of concise soundbite about it. And I'm sorry I won't be on this podcast.
It's all good, man. I mean, I have a feeling we could all talk about these deeper issues for a very extended period of time. But that will be saved for another day. Hopefully when you're actually in town.
The return visit. So yes, as we mentioned with this studio, we've got there's a full green screen. So like if you guys are on the road and you feel like recording and doing some content stuff here, there's going to be all that attached to it as well. And yeah, awesome. Record the podcast face-to-face next time, I think sounds like a good plan.
That's great. Man, if you guys need any, if there are any artists that you would want to talk to that I might know, and you would like sort of an endorsement from me, I would love to help you guys get guests, because I love this show's great. And
thanks, man.
You guys are so pro and so nice, and you don't always get great interviews. So this is awesome.
I appreciate that.
I really appreciate that. I do want to ask, where was that Britpop playlist that you built? Who asked you for that? You remember?
It was called Having a Laugh. Sorry, no, Having a Chat. Having a Chat.
Having a laugh.
Having a Laugh is good too.
The official, I think. Okay, never mind. That's too deep on the British pop culture.
Is that an Office reference?
I think it's Extras.
It's Extras. You're right.
It's Ricky Gervais's sitcom. That's his like cheesy, corny catchphrase.
Yeah, when the whistle blows.
Yeah, when the whistle blows. Is he having a laugh? Oh man. Okay, cool.
That's gotta be one. Hey, you just mentioned what I think is like one of the best comedy TV shows series ever made.
Oh yeah, I pulled it off the shelf last week, and I think, you know, once my girlfriend and I are done watching what we're watching now, we'll probably have to do. It's been a couple of years since we watched Extras, so.
Do you remember the last episode? I think it might have been like the Christmas special or something, was like the finale of the whole show, where he goes on Big Brother.
Oh, yeah.
And he just gets really sad.
Yeah. And so depressed.
And it's at once hilarious, but suddenly you realize that the whole show has been a statement about celebrity.
Yeah.
And the whole, it's such a meta work of art, because like they got enough clout with The Office that they could invite famous people onto their show. So they're like, okay, let's get Robert De Niro and like famous people.
David Bowie.
Yeah. That's a legendary one.
Yeah.
To guest on every episode, and that would be enough. But it turns out that the presence of those celebrities was just a part of the overall message of the show, which was like, and he says it in the finale, it's like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor. Like, I wanted to do something that like really helped people and had value in the world. And now I'm on Big Brother trying to be famous. And all of us are here. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
And it was just like the most sobering finale of a comedy show while still being funny that I've ever seen. It just blew my mind. It's true art on BBC.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, Pete, you got anything else?
No, I think that's, we're good. I just can't wait to do it in person.
Yeah, man.
Me too, you guys.
This is fantastic. Congrats on the new record. And yeah, really excited to see it brought to life on stage.
Yeah, guys. See you in Red Deer.
All right. Peace, man. Thanks a lot, Zach. Talk to you soon.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
That was Zachary Gray from the Zolas, a guy that I've never talked to.
I have also never talked to.
And he brought up Mac DeMarco in that interview, and it reminded me, and I wanted to share the story with producers Ryan and Riley as well, of one of my embarrassing moments. It's not like a top 50 embarrassing moments, because there are many of those, but it's definitely something that I've thought about a lot, and it has to do with Brennan from Bose. Now, a few years ago, there was a show at Bose, and Adam Baldwin was opening. Do you remember what show that was, Ryan? Pete, do you remember?
No. I remember Adam Baldwin being there, but I don't remember what show it was part of.
It's going to bug me. But Adam Baldwin, I believe, was opening, and he was wearing like a denim jacket and stuff, and it was pretty, I think it was Adam Baldwin. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be pissed. But I, in my mind, said, this guy is like, just reminds me, it was like a mix of Springsteen and Mac DeMarco. And not 5 minutes later, I'm standing with you and Brennan says, this guy's like Springsteen and Mac DeMarco. And I was so shocked that we had both made this connection within minutes that I like screamed. And Brennan looked at me like, this fucking guy's a weirdo. I've never told him that, but yeah, it was a wild moment.
You were just overexcited.
It was like a dream. I mean, it's not too often you get to make that connection. Those very specific connections adjacent to someone else.
And now we know how high esteem you hold Brennan in.
High esteem, yes.
High esteem.
So that was fun. I could talk to that
again.
guy
A
for
great
long
guy
time.
to talk to, who's just so much deeper than the music.
Yes,
that they put out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've said it already a couple times on this podcast that I'm not a huge lyrics guy. It's not the first thing I focus on. I'm mostly melody and beat, but yeah, definitely check it out. Parse through them, because some important. Every song seems to be about something that is very topical, or needs to be, anyways.
Needs to have the discussion made on it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, I love the release mentality of just throwing the singles out as they're ready, rather than like you said, you wait and sit on something for 2 years. Like, how do you still maintain that level of excitement for that song you wrote 2 years ago when you could be in a completely different place?
Well, also, and I didn't think about it till after, but like, is there a control aspect to that where if you are a band that deals with management and labels and stuff, and sometimes you have a release structure that's been recommended for you.
Sure.
I wonder if there's a little more freedom in that, in putting those songs out and getting more ears and eyes on them.
Let's be honest, there's marketing plans behind all of it, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, what a guy, what a band. And I don't think I've seen them live, so I'm excited to do it.
We are going to have some smoothies backstage at Bose.
Smoothies. Yeah, that's
next time those
smoothies.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds smart, and yeah, it's preserving yourself for the tour, but
I get it.
We'll have to think about that. So yeah, well, subscribe to the Bose Bar and Stage YouTube channel.
Follow the social medias.
The Road, the Stage. What else, Pete?
Episodes come out on the particular day of the week.
It is a particular day of the week.
That day is
still just me. We're still confirming that
I'm not taking.
I'm the only ones. Oh, Wednesday.
The Road, the Stage is produced by Ryan Cooley and Riley Suryin. Recorded in Red Deer, Alberta, and in partnership with Bose Bar and Stage, Troubled Monk, and Tourism Red Deer. The Road, the Stage.